All right, and we are live, everyone.
Thanks, Miranda. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. My name is David Mamora. I'm the chair of the New York State Independent Redistricting Commission. I want to thank you all so much for joining us for our final public hearing session, this time for the entire state. I want to acknowledge my fellow commissioners who are here today: Vice Chair Jack Martins, Commissioner Evelise Cuevas Molina, Commissioner Ross Brady, Commissioner John Flateau, and Commissioner John Conway. In addition, I want to thank the men and women behind the curtain who are making today work. Co-Executive Director Karen Blatt, Deputy Co-Executive Director Isis McIntosh Green, Director of Public Engagement Asia Badi, Assistant Director of Engagement Miranda Goodwin-Robb, Data Manager Jonathan Rivas, Co-Executive Director Douglas Breakell, Deputy Co-Executive Director Kevin Murphy, Assistant Director of Engagement Danielle Futia, and Data Manager David Schaefer. Today, we are embarking on New York's first ever public redistricting process, where average New Yorkers have the opportunity to weigh in on their district lines. As has been discussed, this is our final public hearing. So in terms of the timeline, we are in receipt of the census data that was released this past Thursday. We are in the process of beginning to draw lines. The proposed lines will go to the public in mid-September. 1 month after that, we will have another round of sessions asking for the public's views on our proposed lines. We will then take the public's input, modify the lines as necessary, and submit the lines to the legislature in January. For those of you who have joined us, or for those of you who are watching right now and were unable to join us today, note that this is not your final opportunity to try to affect the commission's decision-making process. You should absolutely feel free to submit written testimony or written materials from today up until the day that we release our first public lines in September. Anything and everything that you think will help us in our decision-making is worth it. Drawing your own maps, submitting pictures, submitting articles about your community of interest, anything you find helpful. Obviously, the earlier you can get things to us, the more likely it will have an impact. But please feel free to continue to submit information to the commission beyond today. So in terms of logistics, each speaker will be allocated 3 minutes. We have a timer on the Zoom, which will indicate how much time every person has remaining. We will mute speakers if they exceed their time. Commissioners will not be asking questions. All of this session, as well as all written materials submitted to the commission, will be posted on our website, nyirc.gov. As we've discussed, we are asking the public to provide information on 2 things before we start putting pen to paper and drawing lines. First, we are asking for information on your communities as they relate to redistricting. Tell us about your neighborhood, your religious group, your school district, your village, and why as a community you should be kept together. This is what is known in redistricting circles as a community of interest. Second, we are also asking for your input on how your present districts can be improved. Again, I want to thank everyone involved, but especially members of the public, for making your voices heard. This is the first time that everyday New Yorkers will be able to provide input on the lines, and I think I speak for all of my fellow commissioners when I say that we intend to make the most of it. This process will only work because of your help, so thank you for joining us. One logistical item I want to note, because this is a statewide hearing, please identify where you are talking about. In the regional hearings, we could usually figure out from context if someone didn't identify where they were from or what community they were trying to represent. We could usually figure it out from context. We do not have that ability here. So please say, give us an idea of where you were talking about, be it the county, be it a certain assembly district. Please just be clear about that. With that, I look to my fellow commissioners. Vice Chair Martins, would you like to speak?
Just to say thank you to everyone who's participated in this listening tour. This is the last stop, as has been mentioned. We're here to listen. We will have our formal hearings going into the fall once we've prepared maps that can be reviewed and commented upon. But the commission felt it was very important that we engage on this listening tour, and we did. This is the catch-all, last stop listening tour that we have. I think it's important. We've committed to listening. We've committed to putting our time in for this. And for that, I want to thank all of the commissioners who participated to this point, because as David had mentioned, this is the first time that this is going to happen, frankly, in the history of the state. The ability for us to draw lines that are predicated more on the realities of keeping communities of interest together than it is on partisan advantage. So real challenge. I know that we're up to it. Looking forward to this process as we enter the formal phase of what we do. But to the entire commission, to our staff, to our co-executive directors who have had to throw this together literally, with days' notice, something that a lot of us, myself sometimes included, take for granted. It's not easy to put this kind of an effort together and to coordinate it and make it come off as seamlessly as they have. So the staff deserves kudos for the work that they've done. And again, great challenge, looking forward to it, and looking forward to listening to the several, I'm not going to say how many people who have signed up for today's hearing. It is significant. It is a statewide hearing, but the numbers kind of speak for themselves, and that's pretty neat. So thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Commissioners, would anyone else like to speak? Commissioner Fletcher.
Hello, New Yorkers. The IRC stands for Voting Rights and Fair Redistricting for all New Yorkers. So we are here to receive your recommendations, your constructive criticism, and we look forward to your participation in this process.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cuevas-Molina, Commissioner Brady, Commissioner Conaway.
All set, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Brady, Commissioner Cuevas-Molina.
I'd just like to say thank you to all the New Yorkers who have participated in this process and invested themselves in helping us draw the best lines possible for their democratic representation. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Brady.
I'd just like to just assert, our real dedication and to putting this together, and the participants' dedication, and my gratitude for being a part of this, and remind everyone not to let this mode of putting the lines together be taken away from you. It could be. Don't allow it to be taken away from you. Keep alert to what's going around you, and make sure that this process goes forward as it's been set forth in the 2014th Amendment. It's very important. Thank you, and ready to get listening again.
Thank you, Commissioner Brady. Miranda, if we could get going, please.
Great. Ben Weinberg, you will be first to speak.
Right, and Ben, how are you?
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I can start, right? Great. Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Ben Weinberg, and I am the Director of Public Policy at Citizens Union, a nonpartisan good government group committed to reform in New York City and state. Citizens Union has been working on redistricting in New York for decades. We have fought to approve the constitutional amendment that created the commission and advocated for providing it with needed resources. We thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak to this cycle as well. This testimony is part of a longer version submitted in writing and focuses on the process rather than on specific area in the state. The previous redistricting process, in which self-interested legislators drew their own lines, unsurprisingly yielded unfair maps, which served the majority party's quest to retain their stronghold on the levers of power. So the allowable population deviation was usually manipulated to enable the Republicans to maintain power in the Senate and the Democrats to maintain control in the Assembly. And districts were drawn to favor a specific political party, an incumbent, or a candidate for office. What you have heard in the public hearings that you have held is the impact those partisan drawn maps have had on New Yorkers. We urge this commission not to repeat the mistakes of the past. As commissioners of a new public body that is not bound by previous norms and interests, you have a unique opportunity to establish an independent and open process that will produce fair maps. And the new criteria set in the Constitution can serve you to deflect pressures from elected officials, including those who appointed you to the Commission. So as the Commission begins to draw the first set of maps, Citizens Union recommends the following. To maintain a fair map drawing process, we recommend that you draw maps that better reflect communities of interest and maintain the integrity of political subdivisions. Do not manipulate the flexibility provided in the population deviation for political advantage, and aspire to create districts of equal population as much as possible. Within the criteria, prioritize redistricting that enhances the diversity of our legislature and allows proper representation for minority groups, even when it is not politically convenient. And provide written justification for districts drawn and release any underlying population data used to make the maps. And in order to enhance transparency and maximize participation, we recommend that you post on your website any maps, comments, and testimonies submitted to the Commission, that in the next round of hearings, you allow residents to testify remotely, just like here, and also schedule some hearings for after work hours, that you provide public information in several languages instead of only English to serve the more than 2.5 million New Yorkers with limited English proficiency. And lastly, and importantly, that you disclose any meeting between commissioners and elected officials or their representatives. Backroom meetings, particularly with the leaders who appointed the commission members, must be public to maintain trust in the independence of the process. These recommendations are a result of many years of involvement Citizens Union has had in the New York redistricting process, and we hope you take those into consideration. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Ben. Appreciate you joining us.
Have a great day.
Sehan Sharabani, I'm sorry if I completely slaughtered that. How are you today? Thank you for joining us.
No problem. Thank you. I'm doing well. How are you?
All right.
Great. I'm all set to go. Perfect. Thank you so much. First, I'd like to thank the commissioners and the commission staff for allowing us to participate in this process that's integral to creating a fair and balanced representation. Secondly, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Sehan Sharabani. I am a Democratic County Committee member in Queens, and also a member of the Central Queens Redistricting Coalition. Now, I would like to get to the issue at hand. The lines have been gerrymandered and designed in such a way that it has split communities in half and has allowed for incumbents and politicians to sit in their seats for a prolonged and unfair amount of time. A lot of what I'll say has been reiterated by folks in the Queens County session, so I'll make my remarks quick. Our Assembly and State Senate districts are quite literally all over the place, especially our state Senate lines. As a resident of Forest Hills and activist for almost 10 years, this is greatly concerning due to the fact that our district is becoming more and more diverse. Looking at the Assembly lines, especially in Assembly District 28, represented by Assemblymember Hennessy, the lines seem to cut through and traverse through communities like Rego Park, which is not one, but 3 Assembly members, Rosenthal, Hennessy, and Jeffrey Aubry. The demographics of each of the demographics of Assembly District 28 are much more diverse and progressive than what was perceived in the past before. As we've seen with local elections, such as the district leader races and the assembly races, as well as the city council race that just occurred. Our state Senate district can also be questioned. My Senator Stavisky has a district that stretches all the way from Flushing to Forest Hills, with her concentration and focus being largely in Forest Hills. Our community is also represented by Senator Joseph Azabo. His district stretches all the way from Far Rockaway all the way to Forest Hills as well. This does not make any sense, and I highly recommend the lines to be considered in such a fashion. With that, I will end my remarks here, and I hope and encourage the commission to draw the lines in such a way that joins Forest Hills in one assembly district and one state senate district with one representative in each district. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sehan. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
Jasmine Robinson, how are you?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Hi. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you so much to the commissioners for having this. I think this is very key and crucial that we have ongoing discussions and conversations about the redistricting process. So my name is Jasmine Robinson. I am a member of National Council of Negro Women. I am also the female district leader of the 61st Assembly District. I wear many hats in the community, and I'll begin my testimony as permitted. Thank you to the commissioners for this hearing. The redistricting process should be reflective of the population growth in Staten Island. Far too long, communities of color and working class communities have been subjected to racial and political gerrymandering. This is very evident in the State Senate District 23 and the Congressional District 11. And I would also like to read something from an ally, Mr. Justin Wood, and with regards to the Congressional District 11. The current NY11 lumps ethnically and logistically diverse communities on Staten Island's North Shore and Bay Ridge into a largely white congressional district. Currently, the U.S. Census Bureau reports that 69% of NY11 residents identify as white, far higher than the percentage in New York City on a whole. The current boundaries also lump densely populated communities with working industrial waterfronts along the New York Harbor and Arthur Hills into a district with largely suburban zoning. This has a major negative impact for constituents with urgent concerns and accessibility to mass transit, working waterfront development, and access to jobs. And now it's going back to me what I have to say. And again, far too long, we have seen communities of color left out, drawn out. And as Commissioner Brady has stated, that this commission, this independent commission, is a right, but not only is it a right, is a privilege for the communities that have been impacted for far too long, that we have a voice. Not only do we have a voice, we have a seat at the table to express what we need. Communities of color, and especially working class communities, have seen the impact of being marginalized, especially through the pandemic of COVID. Again, please, I do stress that these lines are drawn in a way, especially District 23 and Congressional District number 11, that is drawn in a way to reflect the growing communities of color, and especially in Sunset Park to our Asian communities, because they too deserve fair and adequate representation in the political process as well. Thank you for your time and your patience, and we're going to keep fighting the good fight. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
Aubry Phillips, how are you today? Thank you for joining the commission.
Well, you're welcome. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Wonderful. My name is Aubry Phillips. Ladies and gentlemen of the panel of the commission, thank you for listening to us. I am president of the Parkhurst Civic Association. It's asking me to start my video.
Yeah, can you turn your video on? Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, there we are.
Okay. So I am president of the Parkhurst Civic Association in Elmont. Commissioners, and specifically co-chair Commissioner Alfano, knows the difficulty imposed on the community of Elmont through partisan redistricting. The 3.4 square miles of Elmont is represented by no fewer than 7 elected officials. The real impact is no representation at all. Imagine attempting to schedule a meeting with state senators, 3 of which we have. It's almost impossible to do so. I want to state just briefly that every word spoken by Citizens Union in this conversation, I reiterate, I just restate those emphatically. Now, what we would like to see in Elmont is lines that are drawn that doesn't divide our community politically, ethnically, socially, etc. So I wouldn't restate that. I wouldn't restate the facts about things like stacking, packing, and cracking. You know these issues already. What I'd like to close my remarks about is the fact that I believe our democracy is hemorrhaging. Partisan redistricting is, in my opinion, the central problem in this issue. Our elected officials are in a position of such authority that they don't listen, or they don't have to listen to the public. So I'm hoping that this commission, with its new charge, sees it that they are, in fact, the ones who can apply a tourniquet to the hemorrhaging of democracy, not just in Elmont, but in this country. You see, without your non-partisan district lines drawn, I am afraid that our democracy, whether it be in Elmont or across the country, will fail. So commissioners, you have the unenviable task of applying a tourniquet to our hemorrhaging democracy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aubrey. Appreciate you joining us. Steve, creator of the fantastic website that everyone uses. How are you today?
Hi, Chair Mamura. Thank you so much. Thank you, commissioners, for having me. If you could hold the timer, I'm going to share some slides and I'll talk through the slides. I'll do that right now. So again, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. And what you're seeing is, as Chair Mamura noted or alluded to, at our team at the Center for Urban Research at the Graduate Center of the City University of New York has developed an interactive online map for the purposes of informing people about the importance and the implications of redistricting. It's called redistrictingnu.org. And you can see the screenshot shows the nationwide view of the map. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that as a resource for the commission and for the members of the public that they can use. I should emphasize that the population information that you see on these slides is old. We just updated the map on Thursday after the Census Bureau published the actual 2020 population counts. The purpose of the map is to show initially which districts are so-called over or underpopulated. We provide information for congressional, state, and state legislative districts, and it's to give people an easy way of finding out where their district is, and then to start thinking about, well, population has changed over the past decade. How has it changed, and what that might mean for how the district lines might change? And so we provide some helpful information for each district. I'll just go through these slides quick. We also show some basic characteristics at the local level within the district about race and Hispanic origin patterns. So you could, again, use this information to think about what the district represents now and how it might change. And then we also show, as I mentioned, the state Senate and state assembly districts, and we show the same information for each one of those. And then for each congressional and state legislative district, we also show how the population has changed from 2010 to 2020. Again, you're seeing a slide that's old. We've updated it with the actual population count, so the pattern might look a little different when you visit the website. This is on a national level. We also soon will have a New York State version of Redistricting NU that will focus on making it very easy for anyone to see what their current district looks like. I'm sure a lot of people may not know what their district lines are, and to compare what those lines look like with the proposed district plans that are developed either by the commission or outside stakeholders. We're supported in this effort by the New York State Census Equity Fund. And so I should point out that even though I'm zooming in from New York City, I'm talking from a statewide perspective. And we'll have a lot of information that people can use to visually see what their districts look like and how they might change based on the proposals that are being talked about. And here's a view of what this looked like when we developed a similar application 10 years ago. So I hope this information is helpful to the commission and to the public, and I look forward to continuing the conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. And I should add that Redistricting NU is also on the commission's website. So if anyone watching should be able to access it on the commission's website as well. But thank you, Steve. Appreciate you joining us. David Rose, how are you today? Thank you for joining the commission.
Hello, Mr. Imamura. May it please the commission. My name is David Rose, private citizen homeowner in the Borough Park neighborhood of Brooklyn. I'm speaking today with respect to the redistricting of the town of Ramapo in Rockland County. Even though I do not live there, I am a stakeholder in the issue for two reasons. One, I have two sons who live in Chestnut Ridge with their families. But two, in a broader sense, I think that every New Yorker, no matter in which of the 10 state regions he or she lives, is a stakeholder in the integrity of a census-based legislative redistricting process if they are interested in good government, which serves the public interest. Allow me just to quote a statement from the Commission's own website. When voters with similar interests are drawn into a district together, their voices multiply, giving them a greater opportunity to express their views, elect candidates of their choice, and hold their leaders accountable. Sounds like Ramapo. Another relevant concept from the website is that of community of interest, a population which shares enough social and economic interests of importance that said community should be included in a single district for effective and fair representation. Again, this could have been written with Ramapo in mind. If we cobble together the concepts outlined in these two statements, we will have a compelling rationale for having the Ramapo representation unified and not fractionated into 3 seats. The greater Ramapo community shares, to a large extent, a common lifestyle, culture, and set of social priorities and imperatives. It is, as I see it, a largely monolithic constituency, but not one that is totally homogeneous. Yes, there is diversity, very much so, and that is a source of strength. But there is no valid rationale for diluting Ramapo's voice, arbitrarily dividing its neighborhoods one from the other by artificially drawn redundant district boundaries, which can only atomize the impact of its citizens in legislative activities. The public interest is best served by simple, transparent, and rational structuring of government bodies. The Ramapo constituency has every right to be unitary and not broken up across 3 seats when one will surely suffice to support American representative democracy at the local level, to which we all aspire and in which we all take pride. That's my opinion, and I hope it prevails. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate you joining us. Carol, how are you today? You are on mute, Carol.
So can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, thank you so much for having me. I'd like to share my screen. So I have a PowerPoint presentation that maybe I can find. There we go. My name is Carol Salmonson, and I'm working on the Draw Democracy campaign. We're a partnership between True Democracy and the New York City chapter of Represent Us. True Democracy, a 501c4 nonprofit organization, is a nonpartisan group of New Yorkers dedicated to changing the systemic dysfunction and corruption of New York politics. We believe in empowering everyday people to take action locally to fix our broken elections and hold politicians accountable. Represent Us New York City is a chapter of Represent Us. We've created what we believe to be the first ever jigsaw puzzle based on electoral districts. The New York State Senate puzzle, which illustrates the reason for the crazy district protect incumbents and the party who drew them. Our website is drawdemocracy.org. True democracy would have district lines that represent their residents. And actually, New York City's community boards do just that, as is shown by the map here. As well, you can see the city council lines here, and they also do a pretty good job of representing the residents. I myself live in Manhattan in Community District 6, Dan Court, Assembly 73, State Senators Liz Krueger's District 28, and Carolyn Maloney's Congressional District 22. I've done a bit of research on their district lines and found a map provided online by New York City Department of Planning. There's a PDF for every borough containing maps of the community boards in color, state assembly district lines overlaying the community boards, state senate districts overlaying the community boards, and congressional districts overlaying the community boards. So I spent some time in Photoshop graying out everything but my own district, whose gerrymandering isn't too bad comparatively speaking, but the way they were drawn still chops up Manhattan's community. This map shows Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney's district, which is fairly sane, but it cuts up Community District 3. This one is Assembly Member Dan. It contains 5, 6, and 8, but doesn't even have one community board in its entirety. And finally, let's look at Senator Liz Krueger's, nowhere near our bizarre as other state Senate districts, such as Senate District 29, which made my eyes bug out. A single block connects a chunk of the Manhattan west side to its northern east side and the Bronx. This map illustrates exactly what gerrymandering means. Clearly, the intent is electoral districts with not representative government. I employ commission maps in the same spirit as the community boards lines were drawn. They're truly drawn to represent its residents rather than its politicians and their parties. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Appreciate it. AJ, how are you today? Thank you for joining the commission.
Good afternoon, commissioners, and thank you and your staff for the work that you are doing on behalf of all of New York citizens. Thank you for hearing my testimony, and I appreciate that you are taking the time to hear first from the state's voters before you draw lines that will affect them for the next 10 years. You're hearing about their concerns, their complaints, perhaps every now and then some good ideas that may serve you as you embark on this tough task. My name is AJ Magnan. I live in the Finger Lakes town of Bristol, Ontario County, Congressional District 27, Senate District 55, and Assembly District 131. I think you and I will agree that citizens actively participating in their own self-government is a fundamental element to good government, and it's critical to a stable civic life in our state. Voting is the key activity we ask our citizens to take on in that good government and civic engagement. But many voters feel that they don't have a say. And why do they say that? Because they live in districts that are fundamentally uncompetitive. They're either drawn in a way that wholly support or majority support one party or one small constituency, or even worse, they were drawn in a way that supported a prior incumbent elected official. I certainly hope that through this process, the Independent Redistricting Commission will be able to provide lines that maximize competition to the extent possible in all electoral districts across the state. I'm not crazy to think that this is going to be an easy task. It is not. New York is a very large and very complicated state. There are over 14 million voters living in both densely urban and intensely rural areas, and district lines that are drawn in a way that every voter's choice is meaningful is probably not going to happen, and it's certainly not going to be easy. But to the extent possible that you can draw lines that create competitive districts, I hope that that is what you'll be able to do. How can you as the commission solve the conundrum? I think the New York Constitution tells you how it will work. By following the 5 stated principles of the Independent Redistricting Commission to the maximum extent possible. In every decision you make when you draw the lines, you'll be forced to balance conflicting mandates, and I hope that one of the mandates that you'll take into consideration is competition. When you succeed in this task, the voters, and especially voters like me, will feel again enfranchised and be more participative in their government. Thank you for your service in this inaugural effort. And thank you for giving the citizens of New York a chance to be heard. I appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you for joining us, AJ. Joan Davis, how are you today? Thank you for joining the commission.
I'm fine, thank you. I'm Joan Davis, a citizen of Tioga County, retired teacher and poll worker for over 15 years. Redistricting in the past has created confusion. In 2000, the line was drawn within a housing development so that about 8 houses with vacant fields behind them were in a different district than their neighbor. Think of the confusion this caused as to who was on the ballot for them. Then in 2010, the districts were drawn so that north of the Susquehanna River was in the 23rd district and south of the river was in the 22nd, except that the part of the village of Owego south of the river is in the 23rd. While it's good that the village was kept united, as one drives east-west south of the river, one goes from the 22nd to the 23rd and then back to the 22nd district. Think of the confusion. Not only is Tioga County in 2 congressional districts, the town of Owego, which is on both sides of the river, is in 2 districts. Please take a close look at the current 23rd congressional district. On Wednesday, Corning representatives requested that you avoid joining them with big cities and thus leave the district virtually as it is. The 23rd runs from Chautauqua County in the west to Tioga in the east. To put the geography in perspective, Long Island, where I grew up, is 120 miles long. I know how long it takes to get from Woodside, Queens to Montauk in Suffolk, even if the traffic disappears. The 23rd congressional district, as currently configured, is 229 miles long. That's over 100 miles longer than Long Island. How is any congressional member supposed to represent that strung out territory, even in a digital age? Having to deal with 7 separate media markets, inefficient and ineffective for both the representative and the constituents. Tioga has the disadvantage that we don't have a city, a hospital, a pediatrician, TV station, major newspaper, or good broadband. Most news broadcasts come from the east, from Broome County. That's also where people go for medical care. The northern part of Tioga goes to Tompkins and Cortland counties. And for specialized medical care, people go to Syracuse. Our students who stay close go to Binghamton University, Broome Community College, SUNY Cortland, Ithaca, Cornell, and Syracuse. Our major connections are to the north and east of us. The current situation is like joining Yonkers and Westchester with Scroon Falls in Washington County. It's an equivalent distance. It would be just as absurd. Please keep Tioga County united, and please unite us with the places we're naturally connected to. It's important that the counties in a district have educational, cultural, and commercial ties. We need good representation to bring needed resources to our county, which seems to get overlooked. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Joan. Appreciate you joining us. Andrew, how are you today? Thank you for joining the commission.
Thank you. I'm doing well. And good afternoon, members of the commission. Thank you for inviting public comment today. My name is Andrew Waliker. I'm a resident of the Upper West Side. As the members are aware, this November, voters will consider proposal number 1, a constitutional amendment that will change the commission's operations. While most of the changes are procedural, one of those changes modifies the principles the commission must consider when drawing lines. The Constitution currently prescribes 6 principles the commission must consider. The 6th principle, which applies only to the Senate, requires that towns, but not cities, be kept whole within a single Senate district, and the commission follow the complex town-on-border and block-on-border rules. The proposed amendment would eliminate these requirements from consideration. These requirements treat the state's cities and towns differently. In past redistricting cycles, these rules have harmed residents of cities. For example, these rules are in part responsible for the division of the city of Rochester into 3 Senate districts, the unnecessarily divided urban neighborhoods, and they precipitated the overpopulation of Senate districts serving New York City residents. It's important to note that even if these requirements are eliminated, the commission is still directed to consider keeping towns together, just like other communities of interest. This change simply means that all of the state citizens are treated the same. While the elimination of these requirements would be a positive development, the timeline presents a real challenge for the commission. The commission plans to release draft maps in September, but won't know if the amendment changing the redistricting criteria will pass until November. Therefore, I encourage the commission to produce 2 draft Senate maps for public review and comment. The first map would abide to the Constitution as it stands today, and the second will presume voters adopt the proposed amendment. By preparing 2 draft Senate maps, the commission will be prepared with a proper map no matter the result of the amendment vote in November. This also ensures the commission's final product will be the best reflection of the redistricting principles chosen by the voters. Drawing only a single Senate map may result in the commission's final map significantly diverging from the one the public reviewed. The commission may also produce a final map which diverges from the Constitution's enumerated redistricting principles. Either result could increase the chance the commission won't agree on a map, or if the commission does agree, the legislature won't adopt the commission's final proposal. While, of course, it's not ideal, the Constitution may change while the commission performs its work. Producing 2 draft Senate maps is a good step to make the best of challenging circumstances. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Appreciate you joining us. Dion Brown-Jordan, how are you today? Thank you for joining the commission.
Hi, can you hear me? Thank you so much. Thank you, commissioners, for giving us an opportunity to speak and for organizing this meeting to hear our redistricting concerns. My name is Dion Brown-Jordan. I am a district leader for the 46th Assembly District, representing Seagate, Coney Island, and parts of Bath Beach, Bay Ridge, Brighton Beach, Diker Heights, and Beach Haven, Gravesend. I am also the president of the Southern Brooklyn Democrats political organization. I'll just jump right into the crux of my comment. What happened to the 46th Assembly District between 1971 to 2021? I'll tell you what happened. Politics happened. This was basically all about political games, making sure that incumbents had a leg up instead of what was better for the community. Since the turn of the 21st century, the 46th Assembly District has been continuously gerrymandered. This district has basically lost immigrants by diluting the Russian community, by splitting the Brighton Beach area in half, and removing African-American voters in the Marlborough houses, according to the Voting Rights Act. Before the year 2000, the 46th Assembly District consisted of Coney Island, Brighton Beach, parts of Bath Beach, and Gravesend. Currently, the district represents Coney Island, parts of Bath Beach, Bay Ridge, Seagate, Brighton Beach, Diker Heights, and Beach Haven, Gravesend. The gerrymandering that has taken place has disenfranchised and split the communities. Coney Island and Bay Ridge, Diker Heights have very different needs. The current map does not meet the needs of the district and communities. Each zigzag line is dividing communities with political motives in mind. Splitting areas makes it difficult for communities to stay together, keep neighborhoods together that share financial, religion, language, culture, history, and occupations together. District lines should not be drawn to aid elected officials and their re-elections. They should be drawn to keep communities together, to help neighbors with similar issues and backgrounds. Our assembly district is shared by Coney Island and Bay Ridge, 2 very different communities with very different histories, culture, economics, ethnicities, needs, and languages. Issues affecting each area are very different. In fact, the only thing we have in common is that we both have exits on the Bell Parkway. Coney Island has the largest naturally occurring retirement community in the city with fixed incomes, yet we share the Assembly District with Bay Ridge that has a significantly younger population with a much higher median income. In closing, I believe that there should be fair representation for all our districts. It should represent our communities. The voters should pick their representatives, and representatives should not pick their voters. Thank you again, commissioners, for giving me this opportunity to share my concerns for the 46th Assembly District. Everyone have a great day.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Matthew Sanchez, how are you? Thank you for joining the commission.
Hello, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure and it's an honor. I come to you as a regular living man, a man that's vexed and a victim of corruption. I'm very upset, my wife, my family, and those who are around me, as well as people that I have spoken to, that is about the corruption system, judicial system, congressional system, legislative system, as well as Senate systems. It is not easy to come up against an unfair, biased judicial system. This is something that is a very big concern, even though it is a good thing about having districting lines, but where does the authority and accountability come into play on every living man and every living woman? When does the accountability will take place and uphold in its proper form the way it's supposed to be created in? It's nice to have people that listen, but it's better to have people that will actually uphold and do what's right. And you know, it's not easy for the person or living man, living woman that's going to be living in a district that isn't upheld in its ethical standards. I would like to thank you guys for hearing me today, because this is going on all around the Mid-Hudson Valley, all around New York, the state of New York, and of private jurisdictions that are not upheld in its proper form, acting on a public platform. Lawyers misrepresenting people, attorneys plagiarizing and committing fraud, tampering with documents, tampering and destructing of even a living person, living man, living woman. We as a whole stand together, unified as one, together, not as a color, not as a race, but as living people. And I would like to thank you for hearing me out, and I hope and pray that something can be done about this accountability. My wife and my family is still today a product of corruption, and I'm not liking it. We have a lot of evidence, and we would like to be actually contacted about this, because it's still continuing. Thank you very much.
Thank you for appearing before the commission, Matthew. Harris Khan, how are you today? Thank you for joining the commission.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you to all that are here today. My name is Harris Khan. I'm a board member of the Muslim Democratic Club of New York. I'm a Muslim Pakistani immigrant born in Uzbekistan, first generation CUNY graduate. I'd like to testify on behalf of the Muslim communities, 1 million strong in New York City, that have been excluded and marginalized at every turn. For years, we've lacked any voice in our politics. We faced illegal surveillance in our mosque. We've had informants in our colleges, literally in our Muslim student associations. We've had deportations of our families and our relatives. Our existence was politicized, but politicians excluded every avenue for us to participate in politics. That is why I'm here today on behalf of the Democratic Club. There are several areas in New York City where Muslims have been gerrymandered. You got census data 2 days ago. That data will not reflect that, because white as a category will not tell you whether that's Italian or that's an Arab, whether that's Algerian or whether that's European. So you won't have that data when you make your decisions, but you can speak to Muslim community leaders, activists, and organizers to get a better understanding. You could talk about Bay Ridge, what the district leader pointed out. Bay Ridge is split up in 3 different assembly seats. Bay Ridge has a Muslim community that's split up. Bath Beach, right across of it, is Muslim too. And that's not united, even though it's a community of interest, it's one people. Most people in Bay Ridge and Bath Beach go to the same mosques. They're split up. Same thing with Jamaica. But today I'll focus on Central Brooklyn. There's an unfair gerrymander in Central Brooklyn. Muslims in Central Brooklyn are roughly concentrated between Dahil Road on the east, Ocean Avenue on the west, Avenue H on the south. These neighborhoods can be called Kensington and Little Pakistan. Huge population of South Asian, Central Asian Muslim residents. This has been split up under current District 17. Senator Simcha Felder does not invest his resources, his time, or even listen to the Muslim neighbors in the area. You can Google the district's creation. It was created to create an Orthodox Jewish district because that district was also divided prior to 2010. But in the creation of that district, Muslims have been sliced and diced. So we've had 0 representation for decades. There is an assembly district that does a good job, Assembly District 44. that unites the Kensington and Little Pakistan area. We asked the commission to use that as an example and build a Senate district out of that outline to make sure a community that shares religious practices, linguistic abilities can be in one district. And we urge this commission to rectify the wrongs of historic, the historic wrongs that people in politics have performed on our community, whether it was the informants or it was the political gerrymandering. I will send to the commission maps that will show the concentration of 15 mosques between Kensington and Little Pakistan. I will send the commission the map from 2 days ago that shows a huge Asian concentration in central Brooklyn. And we will do that for every single Muslim community that was gerrymandered and excluded. And we ask the commission to do the right thing and make sure that when they do the first draft of maps, it does not continue this exclusion, because that will be on the hands of the commission. And we won't have the governor or anybody else in Albany to blame for when the first set of maps comes up and Muslims are yet again divided. And for context on population, because the population data does not reflect what Muslims are, Asian does not reflect whether you're South Asian, Central Asian, or East Asian, feel free to contact community members and community leaders. The Muslim Democratic Club here would be happy to assist. And I can also email my contact information and the contact information of our club. Thank you so much for your time.
Hey, Horace, really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
Judith Hertzberg, how are you? Thank you for joining the commission.
Thank you for giving me time to testify today. My name is Judith Hertzberg. I live at 20 Plaza Street in Prospect Heights, Brooklyn. I'm testifying today on behalf of myself as a resident of Prospect Heights, as well as on behalf of the New York Immigration Coalition's Mapping Our Future Coalition. Mapping Our Future is a statewide coalition of advocates dedicated to mobilizing the grassroots to get involved in redistricting and advocating for a fair process and fair maps. Prospect Heights is my community. However, my block is consistently carved out of my community in political districts and tacked on to another district, typically on the other side of Flatbush Avenue. The disadvantages my access to elected representation. Specifically, my block, my residence, is in Assembly District 52, City Council District 39, and State Senate District 20. And I know many people have testified about the borders and the lines drawn in District 20. The vast majority of Prospect Heights is in Assembly District 57, City Council District 35, and State Senate District 25, respectively. These are the districts which include all of my Prospect Heights neighbors. State Senate District 20 is one of the most egregiously gerrymandered districts in New York State. It violates all codified principles of drawing fair district maps. It is neither geographically compact nor regular. It is barely contiguous. It divides communities and connects parts of communities that do not share common economic, historical, cultural characteristics and interests. The district includes parts of Brownsville, Crown Heights, East Flatbush, Gowanus, Park Slope, Prospect Heights, Prospect Lefferts Gardens, South Slope, and Sunset Park. I urge the commission to correct these violations in the mapping exercise before you. Ensure that all districts adhere to the rules and principles of redistricting. In 2022, districts must be contiguous, regular, and compact. Most of all, it must keep communities and neighborhoods together. Thank you for your attention to my concerns.
Thank you, Judith. Appreciate you joining the commission.
You're welcome.
Jacqueline, how are you? Thank you for joining us.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jacqueline Reyes. I'm a cultural organizer with Little Manila Queens Bayanihan Arts, a coalition who supports the preservation of the Filipino community in New York City. We are proud to be a part of the APA Voice Redistricting Task Force. Today, I'd like to offer a portrait of an important community of interest, Little Manila in Woodside, Queens. Little Manila is currently divided between at least 3 state assembly districts, 30, 34, and 39. As you know, this dilutes our voice and power and hence stifles our ability to protect our community. In the 1970s, when New York hospitals were facing a nursing shortage, they recruited healthcare workers from the Philippines. Those who came to work at Elmhurst Hospital settled in the surrounding neighborhoods, including Woodside, where the Filipino community has since grown and thrived. In Little Manila, we know that the emergence and resilience of our community is attributed to our care laborers, most of them women who face the challenge of being immigrants who work to care for all New Yorkers while simultaneously supporting the loved ones they left behind in the Philippines. Little Manila has since become an important hub for the estimated 85,000 Filipinos who live in the city, a majority of whom live in Queens. The oldest businesses like Phil and Food Mart and Renee's Kitchenette boast over 3 decades of not only being in business, but serving as informal community centers for residents who need culturally informed support and resources. Owners of these Little Manila businesses have witnessed their customers arrive here, raise children, and then raise grandchildren. These same Filipino families have shared the same meals, attend Tagalog language services at St. Sebastian's, and send their children to the nearby schools where they have observed more Filipino students and teachers than there have ever been. Currently, the Little Manila community is facing threats of displacement. Already, we have seen attempts to gentrify the community. Despite being one of the city's largest Asian groups, we are still being told we don't belong here. We saw Filipino healthcare workers on the front lines of the pandemic and dying at a higher rate than any ethnic group. Many work simultaneously in the Little Manila restaurants and the city's hospitals. We've also seen our elders brutally attacked, people like Noel Quintana and Potri Rancamanes, who have lived here for decades. For the Filipino community, whose major contribution to New York has been caring for its children, elderly, and sick, we want the city and state to care about ours too. I urge the Redistricting Commission to keep our community together so that we can be full participants in the democratic process. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Appreciate you joining us. Deborah Payton-Jones, how are you? Thank you for joining the commission.
Hello, and thank you so very much. Good afternoon, and thank you for your time and your active listening. I am retired after 32 years within the SUNY University system, molding young minds. I have served as a coordinator of elections for 42 years, serving in the very community I grew up in, Amityville in Suffolk County, Long Island, and serving my church community as assistant branch leader for our missions department in Nassau County. I am the founder of Voter Education 365, Incorporated. The New York communities that suffered because of economic and social loss after improper and systematic acceptance of a redistricting process designed to alienate communities of color and be righted, and the shift toward the equality mentioned yet not received by all Americans can be realized by you, this commission. Make this the restoration season. The majority of the minorities on Long Island are surrounded by communities with very different needs and priorities. I hope as you move forward in this process, you will keep this in mind and ensure the interests of these residents are also considered. We, Kira B, Smiley, Marty, Dominique, Judith, and Kira are Voter Education 365, and we work daily to educate the underserved in an effort to help them understand the power of their vote, the importance of being knowledgeable about all political processes, including redistricting. The numbers don't lie. Our population has been steadily increasing, but the number of representatives have not increased proportionately. In the polarized political climate that we currently find ourselves in, this fact goes beyond being illogical and unfair, way beyond being illogical and unfair. So we need to make sure that we ensure moving in the right direction will be crucial to avoid what we see going on in Texas and in Georgia as it relates to voting rights. These last few years have made it clear that nothing should be left to chance. I reside on Long Island Congressional District Number 2, Election District Number 94 in Babylon Village, and I'm one of the moderators for the 21,000 plus members of the Black Long Island group on Facebook. In 10 years, I will have become proficient in map drawing and wanted to speak on behalf of those we educate. I received this date and the time of today's meeting and did not want to miss this opportunity to speak, even though I am sitting in a car outside of a church late to walk into a wedding. But I had to be here to make sure that those that we educate are properly know that it's time, and when it's time, you do what you're supposed to do, no matter what else is on your agenda. I thank each and every one of you guys. Please just remember, take into consideration, not only the areas within the district maps, but those that they abut against, because that can have a dastardly, drastic reaction. Have a blessed day.
Thank you, Deborah. Go to your wedding. Eric, how are you?
I'm doing
I
wonderful.
hope you are not going to a wedding right now. Okay.
Oh, I am not headed to a wedding. Thank you very much.
Okay, good. Okay.
Thank you, commissioners, for opening up this opportunity on a beautiful Sunday for me to express my frustration with the current system. My name is Eric Harriman. I'm a voter in Wayne County from Williamson, New York. I'm frustrated by the lack of representation that I am receiving from my elected officials. To give an example, I've contacted my congressman, both by phone and by email, many times. And when he opts to respond, it's usually by a form letter, many times for thanking me for contacting him for a message that I didn't leave. It's not the issue. I'm a new Toastmaster, which has given me the courage to talk to you in this venue. Please excuse me for any mistakes that I may make. Wayne County is a rural community. We identify with the farmers, but there's a diverse mix of farmers, blue collar, and white collar workers. Most of these workers, well, many of these workers find work in Monroe County. And I'm finding now that many people that have worked in Monroe County or lived in Monroe County are retiring to Wayne County. Little known fact, Wayne County is one of the few counties in New York that does not have a college, university, or higher education. In the interest of time, let me start with my recommendations and work backwards. For the Assembly District, I recommend including either all of Auburn or all of Oswego. Please don't chop them up. For the state Senate, follow the county line, remove Webster, and add either all of Oswego or all of Ithaca. Again, continuity. For Congress, please align us with Eastern Monroe County instead of Syracuse. Syracuse is considered central New York. If you put a pin in Syracuse and balance the state, that's about center. We're not center. For each of these, I recommend that you start with a fresh slate. You start without the benefit of knowing where the previous lines were drawn. Makes sense. Give a voice to everyone, not just those that can afford to make contributions to the existing party. An example of some out-of-the-box thinking, the Pioneer Library System formed an association between 4 counties, Ontario, Wayne, Wyoming, and Livingston, to seamlessly share resources and enhance their communities. Imagine if our newly created districts worked in a similar collaborative fashion for the improvement of the residents. Imagine if the conversation was not mired in partisan rhetoric and voters were not ignored by their officials due to gerrymandered districts. I thank you. I see I'm out of time. I thank you for this opportunity to bring this to your attention.
Thank you for joining us, Eric. David Lee, how are you? Thank you for joining the commission.
Thank you very much. Thank you, commissioners. My name is David Lee. I'm a resident of New York City. I am the chair of the League of Asian Americans of New York. We're an association of community leaders who are very engaged in supporting government representation in the Asian American community. Leading up to the primaries, we held public online forums with no less than 30 candidates, including mayoral, borough president, Manhattan district attorney, dozens of council candidates, and the forums were seen by thousands in our community. For the Asian community, the voting pattern for mayor was truly enlightening. Statistics show that voters voted based on their own identity and along ethnic lines very strongly. For Asians, that candidate was Andrew Yang. And in looking at the map for Yang voters, it overlays perfectly over Asian communities. I took this one step further and overlaid Assembly, Senate, Congressional, and City districts over the communities that Yang won. I'm going to attempt to share that with you here. As you can see, I hope you can see that in the purple area, those are the areas that Yang won in, and they're overwhelmingly Asian American. And you can see also by the red lines in this particular example that they're split by several assembly districts. The same is true for Senate districts. The same is true for congressional districts, and the same is true for council districts. I'll stop the share. I'll be happy to send it to you in a communication. So that's not surprising because we're not represented in these areas. This week, it was announced that, and I quote, the number of Asian Americans residents counted by the census swelled to nearly 420,000, a nearly 43% increase from 2010, compared with a 9.2% hike in the borough's population overall. I'm talking particularly about Brooklyn. Yet, there is not one Asian American state senator, assembly member, Congress member, nor council member from Brooklyn. How can the fastest growing group in Brooklyn, who overwhelmingly voted for an Asian citywide candidate, not have an Asian local or state representative? These existing district maps, when overlay over Yang voters, further indicates how the Asian American cannot represent themselves in a particular district. Being a lifelong New Yorker, I understand that these lines were drafted according to demographic lines. The urgency of Asian American issues can only be represented by politicians from the community. Asian hate, marginalization, and education, exclusion from government programs and funding are all issues that need to be brought forth by representatives from our community. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. Hope you all have a good day.
Thank you, David. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
Margaret Goodfellow, how are you today?
I see you can't see me.
Well, we can hear you, Margaret.
Okay, all right.
Oh, we can see you, yes.
Ta-da. Thank you. My name is Margaret Goodfellow. I am here as a representative of the League of Women Voters of Broome and Tioga Counties. I am the co-president of that league. I also reside in rural Eastern Broome County in a place called Harpersville, Oquaga. I am here to talk briefly in general terms and specifically about a couple of issues on election districts in our area. Traditionally, as we know, legislators have kept tight reins on the process and have drawn lines using creative cartography to maintain their own partisan majorities and to protect incumbents. It's not hard to see why the system is perceived as guaranteeing gerrymandering. The result is that it can seem that incumbents are picking their voters rather than the other way around. The result of this is that New York's elections are notoriously uncompetitive. Without strong competition in our electoral system, meaningful discussion of public policy takes a backseat to partisan rhetoric. Why should people vote if there is no real choice in candidates? The creation of this commission via ballot proposal passed by voters, implemented this year, gives us hope. That the promise of this commission is that through the new process, effective and equitable redistricting can be achieved to reflect geographic, racial, ethnic, gender, and political diversity. The IDC shifts the responsibility for drawing maps as a representative institution and not having being an incumbent protection program. Throughout the state, proper redistricting should be responsive to the issues of constituents rather than focused on keeping political parties and individual persons in office. Citizens want this. Our election should have candidates from diverse backgrounds supporting democracy. We need to have new faces, new candidates, new ideas, because if we don't, people will not vote. Successful redistricting can improve the likelihood of community. Here I go with my districts. Representatives New York 22 includes Nichols 1 and 2, and Owego 11, 17, 19, and 21, and New York 23 for all other Tioga districts. In New York 19, part of the town of Sanford is included in New York Assembly 124 includes a small western portion of Broome County, with the remainder going westward into Chemung and other counties. Those are things that we have observed that you may wish to look at in looking at your map drawing. Thank you for allowing me to speak at this venue.
Thank you, Margaret. Appreciate you joining us. Jasper Diaz, how are you? Thank you for joining the commission.
I'm very good. Thank you so much for your time. Good afternoon. My name is Jasper Diaz, and I'm a lifelong resident of New York City. I'm testifying today in my role as political coordinator for the League of Asian Americans of New York, LANI, an association of Asian American community leaders advocating for justice and representation in our communities and government. From our founding earlier this year, LANI has been active in hosting candidate forums focusing on issues of importance which are impacting Asian American communities with candidates running for local, borough-wide, citywide office. We've also been promoting voter registration, specifically in the Chinese community, and have been partnering with community organizations such as CCBA to provide self-defense classes in light of the significant increase in anti-Asian xenophobia and violence beginning over a year ago. Recent data released from the United States Census Bureau shows a 7.7% overall population increase for New York City, but half the city's growth coming from an increase in the population of Asian New Yorkers, according to the city's chief demographer. This cannot be more pronounced in the borough of Brooklyn, which saw a 43% population increase in the number of Asian residents to 420,000, and then Queens, which saw a 29% increase to close to 706,000 Asian residents. In both cases, the dramatic increase in the number of Asian residents outpaced the overall population growth of their respective boroughs or counties. While we feel there are many districts that can see improvements for Asian Americans throughout the city, we feel South Brooklyn has the most room for improvement, where existing Chinese and Asian communities spanning multiple neighborhoods are currently gerrymandered and split between multiple overlapping districts, especially at the state senate level, spanning districts 17, 20, 22, and 23. The New York State Independent Redistricting Commission has the power to help make history in creating the first district unifying South Brooklyn's Chinese communities encompassing Sunset Park, Dyker Heights, Bensonhurst, and the areas of Homecrest and Avenue U and Sheepshead Bay into one state senate district that can better serve the people who live there and enhance both social service delivery and representation. We also call on the commission to keep Manhattan's Chinatown and Brooklyn Sunset Park in one congressional district due to the close social, cultural, linguistic, and immigration patterns and ties between the two neighborhoods. At a time where anti-Asian bias, xenophobia, and violence is on the rise, unifying existing Asian American communities in South Brooklyn and keeping Chinese communities in New York Congressional District 7 intact will send a strong message and helping to enhance the ability for better representation and resources, while ensuring that Chinese communities can have a unified and equitable voice in the electoral process. We hope to continue working with you, as well as our community partners and friends during this redistricting process. Thank you for your time today, for the opportunity to testify, and I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you so much, Jasper. Appreciate you joining us. Mary Ellen Chomsky, thank you for joining the commission. How are you today? You are on mute, Mary Ellen.
Sorry.
No worries.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Mary Ellen Chomsky. I'm a lifelong resident of New York State and a longtime resident of Westchester County, specifically the town of Mamaroneck. When my family first moved to Mamaroneck, we were in Nita Lowey's congressional district. As you know, she served from 1989 until this year. During those 32 years, the district's number and outline changed, but it always included Southern and Central Westchester County. That is, until the redistricting that followed the 2010 census. Do you remember the scene from The Wizard of Oz when the Tin Man and Cowardly Lion come upon the Scarecrow after the attack by the flying monkeys? Help, the Scarecrow cries out. They tore my legs off and threw them over there. They took my chest out and threw it over there. Well, to those of us who had long been in Nita Lowey's CD18, together with most of our Westchester neighbors, it seemed that, like the Scarecrow, our district had been dismembered. Miscellaneous parts of Southern Westchester had been lopped off and illogically tossed in with the Northwestern Bronx. Equally arbitrarily, Westchester's Sound Shore communities from Pelham to Portchester had been splintered, despite the many significant environmental issues and other concerns they share, including shoreline infrastructure, water quality, flooding, storm resilience, and recreation. Those communities should all be in the same district. As you know, the law requires that the commission take into account pre-existing political subdivisions, including counties, cities, towns, and communities of interest. Since the Bronx is part of New York City and Westchester is completely outside of New York City, combining parts of the Bronx with parts of Westchester blatantly violates that principle. Here are just a few of the many reasons why Westchester and the Bronx do not belong in the same district, and why no one, not the Bronx, not Westchester, and not the congressperson, is well served by randomly conjoining the constituencies of such structurally different governmental systems. As I described more fully in my written statement, they have entirely separate and different governments, police, firefighting and EMS, transportation, public school governance, taxation systems, boards of election, libraries, electrical infrastructure and needs, and many other such structural differences. Thus, placing Westchester and Bronx communities together in one district is illogical. It places an untenable burden on the representative who must navigate such diverse and divergent systems of governance and services. This shortchanges everyone involved. Quite simply, the Northern Bronx belongs with other New York City communities, Westchester, particularly Central and Southern Westchester, and all of its Sound Shore communities should be reunited. Thank you very much for listening to our concerns on this extremely important subject.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. Appreciate you joining us. Joseph, how are you? Thank you for joining the commission.
I'm well, David. Thank you. I'd like to thank the commission, Chair Imamura, and your staff for the privilege of testifying today. I'm speaking as a citizen to promote a solution benefiting all New Yorkers. The problem that I want to solve is that our current redistricting system, both the process and the results, encourages cynicism and drives voters from active engagement in spite of what I believe to be your good faith efforts. The first problem is that when maps are drawn so that people are physically far apart from each other, it leads to disengagement. How can we have meetings, distribute literature, and knock on doors? How can we organize? How can we engage when we are far apart? Even in New York City, with its very dense population, congressional maps are drawn so that people are up to an hour apart on mass transit, and communities of interest can be split. We saw this disengagement in the recent presidential election, celebrated for high turnout, in which 50 million people aged 18 and over did not vote. We see it in New York City's recent Democratic primary, where about 75% of registered Democrats did not vote in an election for the mayor who will lead us out of the pandemic crisis. The second problem is that the rules of your mandate, state law, and the Voting Rights Act are more qualitative than quantitative, and therefore vague, inviting the myopic all against all approach of much of the testimony you have heard. I propose a data model that is more statewide, rules-based, transparent, and quantitative, and also compliant with existing rules. But what can a redistricting panel do to promote civic engagement? Your job is to draw maps. And what is this rules-based approach? To visualize the map drawing process that I propose, imagine New York as a calm lake into which the committee tosses 26 pebbles at once. As the ripples move outward, they run into other ripples. And at this point, the rules kick in. 1, keep voters close together. 2, minimize the ratio of perimeter to area. 3, have legislative delegations accurately reflect the party affiliation or non-affiliation of voters. Just as we are limited to approximately 800,000 voters per district, numbers can be assigned to all of these goals too, so that they are transparent and actionable rather than merely aspirational as they are now. This rules-based quantitative model exists today and was recently used to propose maps in North Carolina and could easily be adapted for the Empire State. I will upload an explanatory video to your website later this week, and I have no economic interest in your using the model. The code would be open source and can be verified by experts and academics for compactness and fairness, much the way we verified the safety of a proposed bridge or the efficacy of a vaccine. You have a monumental task, and I admire the way you've navigated it. I think you can bring the redistricting process and results into even closer alignment with your values by pursuing a statewide, transparent, rules-based process that supports citizen engagement. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. Appreciate you joining us. Robert Perkins, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much. And I definitely thank each and every last one of the commissioners for inviting me to testify. My name is Robert Perkins. I'm district leader, the first African-American district leader, male district leader on Staten Island in Staten Island history. But I'm really representing the community as I usually do. I don't come to y'all speaking as an expert, but I have plenty of concerns. So I've been in Staten Island for 30 years. And as a man of color, I and my family have experienced the impact of redistricting. Now, 30 years, that means the redistricting happened 3 times in my time. And it just, I'm looking at how it, a lot of work I do on the South Shore. And I live on the North Shore. And I see the money coming in on both shores, but yet we are so underserved on the North Shore, it's ridiculous. I see the elementary schools, it looks like college campuses. I look at ours, and I'm a former school director, and it looks like 5 miles of bad road. And if it's not being redistricted right, then you know what? Here comes some more problems. Now, with the census being done last year, smack dab in the middle of a pandemic, no less, and the census.
Mr. Perkins? Mr. Perkins?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, we lost you for 20 seconds there. So can we change the clock to accommodate that we lost him for 20 seconds?
Where did I get lost off at?
We heard you at, you were talking about schools, I would say, and then.
Right,
Okay,
what I was saying is, I do a lot of work on the South Shore, and the schools over there, the elementary schools look like college campuses, and us on the North Shore, ours look like 5 miles of bad road. And as a school director, that always concerned me, because not only do we have, are we underserved, but we're not respected. And that's just not fair. It really truly ain't. They said the Census Control last year said, Census Bureau said that they had a 5.7 increase in population over the last 10 years. And I personally believe with gentrification, that probably matched that 5.7. So I don't know where the numbers is.
I think we may have lost
Mr. Perkins, we have lost you again, I'm afraid. Mr. Perkins, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, so yes. So we got you up until the Census Bureau 5.7% gentrification. So from there, continue.
I apologize. I'm just pulled over to the side of the road, so you caught me on the road. But
no worries, no worries.
I believe gentrification in itself increased that 5.7. So I don't know who's really doing the numbers, especially in the middle of a pandemic. But my question to you, and my question, I guess, to the commission, because I'm not educated in the redistricting enough to know the fine points and all these numbers that people are talking about. But we do understand that redistricting determines representation for people across the United States and in various electoral districts. Unfortunately, some past redistricting resulted in diluting the voting strength of minorities, meaning Black and brown, which I'm sure it's going to do again, or it's intended to do. And it has been used for partisan advantage, which definitely isn't right. Now you add in the fractured state of both parties, Democratic as well as Republican. My question to the commission is, how do you or can you guard the people against the lines that have been intentionally drawn to advantage one group or another, AKA gerrymandering? I'm done.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Perkins. And I would refer you to our website. And thank you for joining us. Appreciate your time. Yeah. Roxana Ali, how are you? Thank you for joining the commission.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Wonderful. Hello, everyone. My name is Roxana Ali. I am a Bangladeshi American hailing from Ozone Park, Queens, where we border City Line, Brooklyn. I am the political director of Bangladeshi Americans for Political Progress, which is a grassroots organization working to amplify the Bangladeshi American voice in New York and advocate for legislation that protects and advances the well-being of the working class and low-income communities. I'm also a member of the Queens CLT, a grassroots group of Queens community members that are focused on pushing for community ownership of land, primarily in Southeast Queens, where I'm from, under the guidance of advisors from Chaya CDC and the New Economy Project. According to the Asian American Foundation, Bangladeshis are one of the fastest growing South Asian ethnic groups in New York City. The last census analysis put the Bangladeshi population at over 66,000, with over 66% of us living in Queens. We know these numbers have grown exponentially based on the census 2020 results. The South Asian population from Bangladesh has resided in Ozone Park, bordered by city lines, since roughly around the 60s, when they sought out neighborhoods with affordable housing to raise their families. One of the oldest Bangladeshi families in Ozone Park that I personally know purchased their newly built home in Ozone Park in 1965. The story is that Khalid Dada had arrived in the 1940s and worked at the Washington Hotel out in the Rockaways. On his long train ride home back to the Lower East Side on the A train, he saw a home being built on 102 Road and decided he would buy it and raise his family there. His home became the home away from home for many young Bangladeshis from the village Khalid Dada came from. He welcomed many, my own father being one of them. Ozone Park was my dad's first home when he arrived in the US over 40 years ago. The Bangladeshi community has grown like many of the diverse communities across the city. They own homes and rent, as well as run their own small businesses, such as grocery stores and restaurants. Newly arrived Bangladeshi community members are able to cope and transition because they're able to find the products, goods, and services they are accustomed to back home, and also communicate to shop owners in their shared language and not feel foreign in their new home in Queens. The 2020 census has confirmed that what we all have felt on the ground, that Queens has continued to grow and our South Asian communities population have surged. We see it with the rising number of masjids in Ozone Park and City Line, and the increase of the South Asian student population in elementary, middle, and high schools across these neighborhoods. It's time that the community is able to organize together to build their collective power and their voices and unify to be better served as constituents. Thank you.
Thank you, Roxanne. I appreciate you joining us. So commissioners, my understanding is that if we want to take a break, this is the time, because the next flight of people is just starting to come in. So I would propose that we take a 15-minute break, commissioners. Any
15?
objection? Yes, 15. All right, so commissioners, we will see everyone back here at 4:45.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are just waiting for everyone to arrive from the
Excellent.
green room. So just a moment.
How many more speakers?
We have another, I think, 40 people signed up. So, you know.
But that doesn't include attrition, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. But I know we have at least another 10 or so on their way. So.
All right, so Lars Dahl, how are you? Thank you for joining the commission.
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, so please go ahead whenever you're ready.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for having me. My name is Lars and I'm an organizer currently living in the town of Niskayuna, which is in Schenectady County. I care a lot about redistricting, so ahead of this meeting, I submitted maps I drew using 2019 census estimates for population. Right now, I'm currently in the process of redrawing them using the new census data, but for the meantime, they can serve as an effective guide to how to create compact districts that can be drawn while keeping communities of interest together. The maps also add new majority-minority districts that would be created under the Federal Voting Rights Act and strengthens the existing VRA districts. I strongly encourage the commissioners to use those as a baseline and disregard the current state Senate districts, as those are clearly gerrymandered for Republicans, and the assembly districts that are currently gerrymandered for Democrats. Now, obviously 3 minutes isn't enough time to go over 3 different maps for the entire state, so I'll focus the rest of my testimony on where I'm from in the Capital Region. The reach of the Capital Region is far, but the core is Albany, Schenectady, and Troy, and their immediate suburbs. This area is tied together in so many different ways, like high school sports teams playing each other, different places of worship, job opportunities, hiking trails, public transit. And the district also shares problems with itself, including the fundamental question of how to keep an upstate urban area from losing population while the rest of upstate is still in decline. The heart of the Capital District is big enough to support 2 state Senate districts and should be put together and not thrown away with other random areas that are not similar to the Capital Region. I currently live in the 49th State Senate District, which is terrible to look at a map. I happen to have grandparents who live in northern Fulton County, and visiting them has given me even greater insight into how these communities have nothing in common with each other. The northern half of the 49th District is an older rural area with a lot of traditional values. Meanwhile, Schenectady and Niskayuna are much more of a young urbanized area that's trying to race towards the future. When I talk to my friends living in Schenectady County, no one has even heard of half the towns in Fulton County, let alone the towns in Hamilton and Herkimer that are also in the same district as us. A much better district for the area would include Rensselaer County with Albany, as well as the sum of Albany's suburbs, and then have a second district that is all of Schenectady County with the rest of Albany's suburbs. Having those districts would make the overall map of the state fit much better with the communities of interest and also keep districts a lot more compact. So thanks again for listening to my testimony and for all the work that you and your staff do. I look forward to seeing the maps you draw, and I'll be sure to send you my maps with the new census information. Thanks again.
Thank you, Lars. Appreciate you joining us. April Colson, how are you? Thank you for joining the commission.
I'm good. How are you?
All right.
Thank you for allowing me to come today and testify before y'all.
Yeah, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Hello, my name is April Colson, and I live in Waterport, a small hamlet in Orleans County, north of 104. I've lived in Orleans County for the last 29 years. I've lived in Medina, Albion, Kent, and currently in Waterport. I've worked and raised my children here, and now my grandchildren are growing up here as well. I come to you today not as a politician or an elected official, but as a concerned citizen, a U.S. Naval veteran, and patriot who loves this country and the area that I call home. Here in Orleans County, we have no big cities within the county. It's mostly rural, quaint, small towns, a little tourism, the Erie Canal, good people, and many campgrounds. We have a dilemma within our county due to the lack of substantial employment opportunities. While the majority of the land is held for agricultural use, job opportunities are few. And what factory jobs are there, you find few substantial job opportunities available. While we have great fishing, we really have no actual representation for the residents of the county. We as a county represent welfare, low income, a bit of stagnation, especially in Albion due to the good old boy system that reigns high on its laurels as opportunities pass us by. It's directly the reason that we need much better representation as to not become a worthless relic that becomes wasted and withers into nothingness. Our 2 largest employers in the county would be the correctional facility and Walmart. Most correctional officers only work here but live outside the county. With the way that the Walmart operates, it forgets that their employees are an intricate part of their business as a whole. It is fine to have representatives as long as they are actually doing their job and representing the interest of the people. I feel it has been a very long time since the residents of Orleans County have had their voices heard, much less their needs met. A simple solution is showing more presence and interaction with the people. This could be accomplished in a multitude of ways, including but not limited to a liaison, Zoom call meetings, town halls, or even emails and texts, connecting the need of the people with the people of change. I thank you for allowing me to speak today. The way we need to redistrict for our area would be more the rural area. We don't have any large cities, like I said. All of our people have to go outside of the county to find jobs. We need districting that will associate us and jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, April, and thank you for your service, as well as congratulations on your grandchildren.
Thank you.
Yeah. Marvin Stevenson, how are you? Thank you for joining the commission.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you, April, for your service. So real quick, I am Marvin Stephenson, and I don't know, should I leave the camera off or on? I don't want to be rude.
Turn it on, but whatever you prefer.
Okay, all right. All right, so I am retired law enforcement, retired military. Spent 25 years in law enforcement where I retired as a sergeant with Rochester Police Department, and 27 years in the military where I started out in the Marine Corps and served in the Western New York region with the United States Coast Guard as reservists, both working in Rochester and Buffalo. Currently running for county legislator in District 3, which is located in Chi-Lai in Monroe County. The reason why I'm coming to speak to you all today is because looking at the way the Senate districts are drawn up, I'm looking at District 61, which spans from the 19th Ward, which is in Rochester, New York, the western side of town, through Genesee County and over into Erie County, servicing Amherst and Tonawanda. Now, I know that as a law enforcement officer, when we talk about resources and we talk about access and opportunity to resources, a lot of that is allocated due to need and due to specificity of the audience or the population that it's serving. And so the 19th Ward resources are not going to be that of the Genesee County rural community needs. And I think that if we're looking at district lines being drawn up, you want to, like April said, with Orlean County being up north, you want to do something that's going to be beneficial for the population. If we're looking for rural resources, that's going to be wasted money in the city because of the needs are different. So as one who's running for county legislator and coming here as a citizen right now speaking, I know that if the districts are drawn up wherein the resources that will be allocated matches that of the need, then that's a less waste in money. And right now with the pandemic, with poverty, with the educational challenges and so many other issues that are facing us social and economically, we certainly need to be a lot more attentive as well as specific rather in drawing up our lines to meet the needs of our residents of the state. And so I'm hoping that you all would take in consideration what I'm saying. One, as someone who has previously worked in public safety, where I used to see the needs of urban, a lot of times not being properly serviced because they were bulked in with the suburban communities. And so same thing with this districting. If we can split those wherein Genesee County would be married up with Orlean County, then you can give the resources of the rural needs, both being in Orlean as well as Genesee County, and Erie and Monroe County could be more better serviced by being put into a same environmental resource as, say, Buffalo or Rochester for our district. And I thank you for your for the time.
Thank you, Marvin, and thank you for your service at multiple levels, Marvin. Appreciate it.
Blessings.
Donald Clarville, how are you? Thank you for joining the commission.
Good afternoon. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for taking the time and opportunity to speak today. Appreciate it. So I am Donald Clarville. I am an educator. I am a mentor, and I'm a community leader. And I'm here to speak on behalf of the Muslim community. I want to testify about gerrymandering. First, the commission should consolidate and unify the Muslim communities in the neighborhoods of Kensington and Little Pakistan. Those are the names that we refer them to in our communities. Naturally, these communities cannot continue to grow if the gerrymandering continues. The Muslim community needs proper representation, and we feel there are certain suggestions that we can offer as to how this growth can occur. Secondly, we demand that we are not included in the same Senate district as Borough Park or South Midwood moving forward. We condemn the last Senate map, which harmed civic engagement and led to ineffective representation from our senator, who did not bother to serve Muslim communities. And lastly, we believe current Assembly District 44 is a good map and provides a useful example for keeping Muslims in South Asian communities of Central Brooklyn united. We demand that the commission use Assembly District 44 as a building block when creating a fair Senate map for our Ummah. I thank you and appreciate you for allowing me time to speak, and hopefully this happens in the near future.
Thank you, Donald. Appreciate you joining us.
You're welcome. Enjoy your day. Thank you.
Kazi Hoke, how are you? I apologize if I completely mispronounced your name just now. Hello? Okay, we have you. Can you unmute yourself, please? Yes, hello. Thank you for joining us. Please proceed whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak and to express certain concerns. My name is Imam Qazi Haq of Masjid Quba, volunteer at Brooklyn Emerge, and educator at Academy. Just some of the concerns that we have is just like people of various race, ethnicity, and religious groups are being represented, similarly, South Asian Muslim communities of this neighborhood deserve representation as well. This is why we asked the commissioner to rectify this by including this in the new election map. How to do it? Firstly, the commissioner should consolidate and unify Muslim communities in the neighborhoods of Kensington and Little Pakistan, which are naturally occurring communities of interest. We cannot continue to gerrymander Muslim communities in 2021 and beyond. Secondly, we demand that we should not be included in the same Senate district as Brooklyn Borough Park or South Midwood moving forward. We condemn the last Senate map, which harmed civic engagement and led to ineffective representation from our senator, who did not bother to serve Muslim communities, with all due respect. Thirdly, we believe current Assembly District 44 is a good map and provides a useful example for keeping Muslim and South Asian communities of Central Brooklyn united. We demand that the commissioner use Assembly District 44 as a building block when creating fair Senate map. Looking forward to your cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Lucas Liu, how are you? Thank you for joining the commission.
Oops.
Yep. Lucas, you're on mute. And you're kind of coming in and out.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, yes, okay, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I know you're probably all in a marathon right now going through all of this. I live on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, which is the area directly west of Central Park. And in that area of roughly, I'm guessing about 3 square miles, we're covered by 4 different senators. Each one of the slivers of those Senate districts is so small that we never see or rarely see the senators that cover our district. Districts is so small that we never see or rarely see the senators that cover.
Sandy, I'm sorry, can I ask you to mute? Because I think what's happening is there's an echo.
Never see or rarely see the senators.
Yeah, there we are. Sorry, Lucas, continue.
Sorry. Okay. So in this roughly 3 square mile area, we have 4 senators covering our neighborhoods. And if you think about one of these districts, it's literally shaped, think about a lollipop, a huge area at the top and then a long, narrow stick. And that long, narrow stick reaches all the way down to the Lincoln Tunnel. And if the purpose of that is because one end of that district is the George Washington Bridge and the other end is the Lincoln Tunnel. Those people that live around the Lincoln Tunnel have no representation about what happens there because it's a different senator. I have lived in District 31, 29, and 27. And that may sound like I moved a lot, but I have literally moved less than 1 mile. And yet that's 3 different Senate districts. If you even just look at the map of districts 27, 29, 30, 31, you don't need an explanation of how ridiculous that looks. And because of that, we literally have no representation for the Upper West Side because each of those slivers, as I said, is so small that the only time I have seen those senators is around election time. If you look at the events that they schedule, almost none of those events are in these neighborhoods because the majority of their districts are elsewhere. District 29, literally, it's a small piece of the west side of Central Park. Then it goes across Central Park, picks up a little bit immediately afterwards, and then literally 1 block of 1 street is used to combine 2 separate areas of the east side. And then it hops over the Harlem River into the Bronx. And if my explanation sounds confusing, just look at the map and you'll understand. So I think when you look at redrawing the west side of Manhattan, that you look at the neighborhoods and just apply some common sense and say, and look at the districts, how they're drawn, and you'll realize that they just do not make any sense for representation. And in fact, it discourages engagement from the people of those neighborhoods. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Lucas. Appreciate you joining us. Teresa, how are you? You are next.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you for joining the commission.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Teresa Bell. I live in District 35. I live in public housing, Lafayette Gardens. As you probably know, that New York City Housing Authority, I'm on a resident roundtable at New York City Housing Authority. And that is a group where there's 32 residents coming up with ideas to help NYCHA. As you know, that it is in dire straits, is under administratorship. As you know, we have a bad homeless problem here, a housing problem here. The rents are going up. Public housing is the only one that's pretty much affordable, at least for me. I work for the city. I can't afford to deal with those landlords out there, not on my salary. I work for the New York City Police Department for 32 years. I'm pretty much in the income danger zone. I'm not a cop. I don't make 6 figures. I'm making the 50,000. My real concern is the housing situation here, and I just find that the leaders in District 35 are not stepping up to the plate. I mean, what's gonna happen with it? I just wanna know, is it gonna go private? What's gonna happen with it? You know, we're coming up with ideas and everything, and it just started 2 months ago. So right now we're at the point where we're trying to prevent the residents from being evicted because, as you know, this eviction moratorium is gonna end in October, which is not too far off. We're already in the middle of August. So I find that the leaders of my district are not stepping up to the plate. I find that they do different sections of Brooklyn. My area has been underfunded. I mean, I'm a constituent. I vote, I do the census. And for like 20 years, my development, particularly Lafayette Gardens, has not been funded. It hasn't been fixed. We got the scaffolds up. We have a pest problem here. The elevators are broken. I'm pretty sure y'all done heard all of that with NYCHA. It's in dire straits here. So I just want to know what the future of it is. I mean, it's pretty scary. Nobody wants to be homeless, and nobody should be homeless in New York. New York has so many resources, and I just feel that the new leadership coming in should be stepping up to the plate, coming up with more ideas, more resources. or something. I know they keep blaming the federal government. The federal government has so many agencies to deal with, and they're also dealing with the people and the immigration that's going on. So I'm just hoping that they come up with better solutions to this problem. And I want to thank you again for letting me speak.
Thank you so much for joining us. Sandy, how are you? Sorry about that feedback before. Sandy, can you hear us? You are on mute. Okay, there we are. Yeah, you are still on mute audio. Okay, we can't hear you. Can you unmute Sandy?
There you go.
Yeah, let's hope that.
Yeah, can you unmute Sandy? Oh, okay. Sandy, do you have a?
Yeah, let's hope that.
Yeah, can you?
I did.
So do you have the Zoom open on our website or on Facebook? You should close that.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Sandy,
So
I'll message you and we can try to work out your tech issues. We'll try to keep it moving and I'll message you, Sandy.
yeah, so Sandy, Miranda's gonna message you,
and we'll try
and
to figure this
hopefully
out.
you can figure it out. Okay.
And Zach, if you're there, Sandy, oh, perfect.
Okay. Wait. Yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, Sandy, go ahead, Sandy.
I can go ahead now? Okay, thanks. And I can also just hear myself, thank heavens. Excuse me for all that. So my name is Sandy Stubing and I'm a climate activist from Albany, New York. I'm speaking on gerrymandering. So gerrymandering contributes to the increasing number of safe seats in the wherever in the Congress. Both parties do it because it advantages the incumbent. Gerrymandering contributes to low voter turnout, especially in the general election, because everybody knows who the winner will be. Essentially, gerrymandering is a cheat on democracy, reducing elections to a ritual. It enables and allows the holders of power to cheat on democracy. And in a nutshell, it turns democracy on its head, with the electeds choosing their voters rather than the voters choosing their representatives. So I'm in the New York 20, which is a really safe seat for Congressman Tonko, and Congresswoman Stefanik is from 21, and that's a really safe seat for her. And so I'm thinking, why not give all of Saratoga and all of Rensselaer County to Stefanik and expand the rural areas for Tonko, and then both seats would be less safe and more up to we voters. So thank you for listening to my comments. That's it.
Thank you, Sandy. Appreciate you joining us. Zach Khan, how are you? Thank you for joining the commission. Okay, we can hear you, Zach. There we are.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much for taking me and giving me the opportunity. I'll quickly talk about a few things. Number one is that we believe that each and every community and minorities should have a voice in different powerhouses. We believe that especially the Muslims in the Central Brooklyn and South Brooklyn, we do not have fair representation, especially when we look at the state Senate seat of 17, District 7, Senate District 17. We do not have any fair representation because this district, when it was created, it was our population was gerrymandered so as to give advantage to a borough park. And we have a senator, his name is Simca Felder, And we never hear from him. We have never seen him. And he does not really represent, and he does not really care about the Muslim community in this portion. We demand from this commission is that to redraw the Senate district lines. So is Kensington, which is the home of so many South Asian communities, so many Muslim communities, and also Borough Park, and also the Little Pakistan. They should be included into one district, and we should not really be part of the Senate District 17 because we do not really see any fair representation from our senator. That's number one. Number two is that we like the lines, you know, the current Assembly District 44 is a good map and provides a useful example for keeping Muslims and South Asian communities of Central Brooklyn united. So that's the Senate, the State Assembly, District 44. That is the lines that we would like actually, with the commission to go ahead with and you know to learn from there and to give us a fair representations with this, our Senate seat. So you know that is my plea and pray to the commission that to give us a representation, especially in the state Senate seat. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Zach. Appreciate you joining us. Mr. Akram, how are you? Thank you for joining the commission.
Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Jabran Akram. I'm a resident of Brooklyn for over 25 years. I want to start off by thanking the commission for having these testimonials and listening to our voices in a timely manner. You may have heard this from my peers already, but I wanted to reiterate an issue facing the community, the Muslim and South Asian community. Neighborhoods like Bay Ridge, Bath Beach, Brighton Beach, Little Pakistan, Kensington have a vast Muslim population, yet the current maps for Assembly and Senate districts do not reflect that. One clear and explicit example of this is shown in neighborhoods of Little Pakistan and Kensington. The South Asian Muslim communities of these neighborhoods deserve representation as well. This is why I asked the commission to fix this by consolidating and unifying the Muslim communities in the neighborhoods of Kensington and Little Pakistan. Like my peers have said, we are sliced and diced all over the city and especially in Brooklyn. My question to this commission is, how can one minority group in one neighborhood be split up among multiple districts? I will be submitting written testimony and maps to this commission and would like this commission to review and redraw the districts in a more equitable design. If you need more information, because the census data sometimes does not show the difference between different races, please reach out to our leaders in our community, reach out to us. We want to help. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Akram. Appreciate you joining us. Minawati Ali, how are you? I sincerely apologize if I butchered your pronunciation, but how are you? Thank you for joining the commission. Hello? Minawati, how are you? Can you hear us? You are on mute, Minawati. Okay, so Miranda, while we wait for Minawati, oh, yes, can you hear us, Minawati? Nope.
Mahtab Khan, you're invited to speak. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Hi, Minawati. How are you? Can you hear us?
I'm fine, thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Imamura and respected commissioners on the panel. Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Minawati Gayadin Ali, EDD. I'm a newly retired New York City elementary school teacher who taught in 4 schools in School District 27 in Queens for over 22 years. I was born and raised in Guyana and immigrated to Queens, New York in August 1977. I was a pioneer and first wave of Guyanese to come to the US I take great pride in this. Guyanese are the second largest foreign-born population in Queens and are the fifth largest population in New York City. But we have always lacked Guyanese representation in local government. Indo-Guyanese are predominantly Hindus, Muslims, and a small percentage of Christians. Diwali is a Hindu holiday celebrated at night with family, where they light little lamps. Yet in November 2001, parent-teachers conference was scheduled on Diwali with no consideration to the population's culture. In Guyanese neighborhoods, the school teachers are mostly white, and many live in Long Island. At the end of the school day, I've seen teachers go home to Long Island and not engaged with the community. Children need representation. They need educators who reflect their background. We need representatives who understand that. As mentioned, Indo-Guyanese are predominantly Hindus, Muslims, and a small percentage of Christians. Some Hindus are vegetarians or don't eat beef. Muslims do not eat pork. This is not an allergy. This is not a preference. This is culture. There is no one to advocate for our children's needs and diets in schools. We need to see representation for our children. I have lived in Richmond Hill and Ozone Park for the entirety of my life in the US. As a member of the community, an educator, and concerned citizens, I want to highlight some of the reasons why I find that are important for redistricting. Outside of schools, we have working class parents, a high cost of real estate, multi-generational households, seniors who may be dealing with health issues such as diabetes, high blood pressure, and cholesterol. Recently, Liberty Avenue was renamed Little Guyana. It was a wonderful symbol, but not enough. Little Guyana deserves political representation as well. Over 40 years of building local businesses, enhancing the community, and being an integral part of New York City vibrant diversity, we earn a seat at the table. It's time to give us that. Do not divide our district into 4 parts. So please consider making our community one so that we can have a voice and representative in local government. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Minawati. Appreciate you joining us. Mahtab Khan, how are you? Thank you for joining the commission.
Yeah, hi again, Commission. Before I get started, do you mind if I share my screen?
Absolutely, please go ahead.
Okay, I don't think I have the feature. Hold on, I'm looking. Okay, I do. Okay, all right. Okay, I'm gonna share it real quick. Okay, can everyone see the screen? Like a map? Yes. Okay. All right. I hope you could start the timer now. But hi again, Commission. My name is Mahtab Khan, and I'm the Secretary of the Muslim Democrat Club in New York. Thank you again for holding these meetings and allowing community members to testify on redistricting. Asian communities have been hit hard during the pandemic, not just by COVID, but by hate crimes too. I believe that this hasn't been properly addressed because of the lack of representation and funding towards Asian communities. And based on the new census data, we have about 2.4 million residents in Queens who are of Asian descent, with 27.3% being Asian American in this regard. And that's a bit over 655,000 Asian Americans living here, and out of the 2.4 New York City residents in Queens. And unfortunately, census data hasn't separated the various and differing Asian communities. But as a community member here, I believe that with a few updates with district lines, Assembly District 24 could become a South Asian majority district. As I mentioned in the past Queens Community Redistricting meeting, representation matters at all levels of government. And from the 150 seats we have in the state assembly, we have only 4 Asian state assembly members, with only 2 of them being South Asian descent. I believe that during the pandemic, elected officials could have done so much more for marginalized communities, and they've been silent on a lot of important topics for folks from my community, especially in regards to human rights issues around the world. And we can't let the status quo continue. We honestly need new leaders who come from these communities, who understand our struggles because they have the lived experience. They'd be willing to voice our concerns no matter, the disparity, and they'd be always someone we could count on. And this is especially because all this time our communities have been underserved, underrepresented, and underfunded. After careful reflection on what I said during the previous Queens community redistricting meeting, I'd like to revise my previous statement since at the time I didn't have a draft of the map. But right now at the screen, you can see this is a draft I have for Assembly District 24. And I'm presenting this new map with that highlights the South Asian community's best interest. The most noticeable change from the current Assembly District 24 map is the removal of Richmond Hill, because honestly, it is its own district, and I wholeheartedly agree with the folks who expressed their interest of it being its own district in the last meeting. And another thing, I want to incorporate more of the South Asian communities here, which is why it's a little bit more expanded. And here in Assembly District 24, we have Asian communities that represent a majority or plurality. So it's at our community's best interest to ensure that the lines we receive reflect and bring about the representation we very much need. Please try to utilize this map as reference for the new district lines, because that way so many of our communities here could get more funding and representation that's been long overdue for far too long. Thank you again, Commission, and that is my time.
Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. And if you could close your screen, please. Great. Haider Ali, how are you? Thank you for joining the Commission. Yes, hello. Yes, hello. Thank you for joining the Commission. Okay, so you are not on mute, but we can't hear you. Is it anyone? Okay, and we appear to have just lost you. Mr. Ali, can you hear us? Okay, all right, Mr. Ali, you're back. Can you hear us? We cannot hear you. Okay, Mr. Ali. Okay, I think we can hear you. Okay, perhaps not. All right, Mr. Ali, I think let's give you, how about let's go to Mr. Raga and then we'll try to go back to you. Commissioners, no objection? Okay. Stephen Raga, how are you? Thank you for joining the Commission.
I'm good. How are you guys today? Thanks.
All right.
Thanks for Haider for letting me jump the line a bit. But thanks for the Commission. Thanks for honor to speak here. My name is Stephen Raga. I sit on the board of the National Federation of Filipino American Associations. I am previous New York State chairman. Our organization pushes for a community that's culturally, economically, and politically empowered and engaged, with a vision to serve the voice for Filipinos and Filipino Americans by uniting, engaging, and empowering organizations through both local and national advocacy. I also serve as a vice president of the Filipino American Democratic Club of New York, and sit on a few other civic organizations as well. Me and my family, we've lived in the Little Manila section of Woodside, Queens, since the 70s. It's a crucial neighborhood here in Woodside, here in Queens, for an estimated 85,000 Filipinos who live in the city. I think that's a underestimation as well. Little Manila currently is divided into 3 community boards, 2, 3, and 4, and 3 state assembly districts, 30, 34, and 39. The good thing is all our assembly representatives are great. We have fierce fighters for us in 30, 34, and 39. But the flip side of it is it shows to the lack of possible representation we have for our community so far in 2021. And Filipinos have been here since the 1800s. There have been recorded 0 elected officials, 0 lawmakers, 0 representatives of Filipino descent ever, and not just the state, but the city here in New York. And just over the last few decades, there's been a lot of impact and influence just on the small business owners and healthcare workers here. Owners of the small businesses in Little Manila have witnessed their customers come in, raise their kids with their kids, and then now have a new generation of grandchildren. And with roots that goes decades back with a mix of healthcare workers and small business owners, that's the same lineage who's been taking the brunt of working in the front lines during the COVID-19 pandemic. Filipino healthcare workers have the highest rates of deaths from COVID-19. Last year, the Filipino restaurants and grocery stores donated time, supplies, and energy to cook and deliver food and nourishment to our healthcare workers across the city, and especially in Queens. Which Filipino businesses did that in the city? The ones right here in Woodside, in Little Manila. And lastly, with the continuous attacks against Asian Americans and the recent two assaults on 2 Filipino American community leaders just last week, we need to make sure we have a political voice that just fights for us and defends us. And so I urge the Redistricting Commission to not just finally bring our community together under one district, but to finally take down these artificial walls that have been raised between family, friends, and religious congregations here in Woodside. Thanks for your time. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate you joining us. All right, Hader, let's try this again. I'm sorry. Can you hear us? Okay. So we can see you, but I can't hear you. Can you try speaking again? Okay, yeah, I can't hear you. And I don't.
I think Hader has also called in, so we're gonna maybe try the phone option.
Oh, okay. If you've called in, that's great. Okay. Wait, sorry, Miranda. He has called in, or
I think so. As far as I understand, we have a phone call waiting in the speakers list as well.
Okay, Hader, are you 224-224-3869976? Is that you? Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right, Miranda, can you try to figure this out with Hader?
Yes, we're gonna try to figure this out, and Jonathan, you can go next.
Okay, Jonathan, how are you? Sorry about that.
That's okay. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today on this critically important issue to the people of the Southern Tier. I'm Jonathan Lawrence, President and CEO of Arnett Health, based in Elmira, New York. Arnett Health, for context, is comprised of 3 hospitals and numerous outpatient sites throughout Chemung, Steuben, and Schuyler counties. We're supported by a workforce of over 3,000, making us only second to Corning Incorporated as the largest employer in this 3-county region. Arnett's overall economic impact is estimated to be in excess of $700 million, and as a primary engine for the regional economy, we feel it's crucial for you to have the benefit of our perspective on this important matter. Unlike regions that are centered around bigger cities in upstate New York, such as Buffalo, Syracuse, Rochester, the structure of the economy and the delivery of services is very different in Elmira, in the Corning region and the Southern Tier. The smaller scale of our communities and the geographic distance between them and our institutions means that things like our healthcare, our local government, our social support systems, our education systems, and our congressional and state legislative districts have an outsized influence on our economy, our culture, and our identity. Unlike Central and Western New York, the Southern Tier counties share a common border with Pennsylvania. When dealing with interstate issues such as the cross-border delivery of healthcare services and policies related to pandemic management, testing resources, and vaccine administration, it's particularly important that our region has its own representative in Congress. The approaches and the solutions that may work in other parts of upstate are simply not applicable to the Southern Tier. As a result, the redrawing of our congressional and state legislative districts would have a disproportionate and profoundly adverse impact. For generations, the Southern Tier has had a dedicated member of Congress, even as the state has lost congressional districts to other states. This historical recognition of our distinct differences has helped ensure that our government in Washington and Albany remains appropriately focused on our region and on the unique challenges that we face. We appreciate that New York's independent Redistricting Commission was designed to take politics out of the process and to ensure that each region of the state is treated fairly. The Southern Tier is unquestionably a community of vital interest, and therefore we respectfully and emphatically implore the Commission to preserve the voice of the people of the Southern Tier by keeping this region intact in the U.S. House of Representatives and our New York State Legislature. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon and for the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Appreciate you joining us.
My pleasure.
All right. Hader, is that you on the phone?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, it works. Okay, thank you.
Thank God.
Okay. All right, please proceed. Thank you.
Yeah. I want to talk about Senate District 17. I am a community organizer here at Brooklyn Emerge. Firstly, the commission should consolidate and unify the Muslim communities in the neighborhood of Kensington and Little Pakistan, which are naturally occurring communities of interest. We cannot continue to gerrymander Muslim communities in 2021. The other demand I have is that we are not included in the same Senate district as Borough Park or South Midwood moving forward. We condemn the last Senate map, which harmed civic engagement and led to ineffective representation from our engagement senator who did not bother to serve Muslim communities. Thirdly, the last demand I have is we believe current Assembly District 44 is a good map and provide a useful example of keeping Muslim and South Asian communities of Central Brooklyn united. We demand that the Commission use Assembly District 44 as a building block when creating a fair Senate map. That's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hader. I'm sorry that it took us 3 tries, but I'm happy we got it.
No, thank you so much. Have a nice day. Bye.
Shabir, how are you? Thank you for joining the commission. I understand you're in a hurry, so.
I am good. Thank you very much for the opportunity, commissioners. I really appreciate all of you gathering on the Sunday and doing this for us. So my name is Shabir Ahmed, and I am the Secretary Information for Khyber Society of America. First of all, we as the Khyber Society believe that all religious and ethnic groups should have the fair representation. Especially today, I'm talking about the Muslim communities of this neighborhood who deserve a fair share. That's why we are asking the commission to fix this by including this in a new election map. Firstly, the commission should consolidate. Firstly, the commission should unify the Muslim communities in the neighborhood of Kensington, Midwood, and Little Pakistan. These are naturally occurring communities of interest, and we cannot continue to gerrymander Muslim communities in 2021. Another very important point is that we demand that we are not included in the same Senate district as Borough Park or, I'm sorry about that, as Borough Park or South Brooklyn. As Borough Park or South Brooklyn moving forward. We condemn the last Senate map, which harmed civic engagement and led to ineffective representation from our senator who never bothered to serve any Muslim community. Lastly, we believe that the current Assembly District 44 is a good map and provides a useful example for keeping Muslim communities and South Asian communities of Central Brooklyn united. We demand that the commission use Assembly District 44 as a building block when creating a fair Senate map. That's all from my side. I tried my best to speak as quickly as possible to save everyone's time.
Thank you so much for joining us, Shabir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you again.
Joshua Berry, how are you? Thank you for joining the commission.
Hi, I'll be keeping my video off due to the lack of Wi-Fi, but I'll start now if that's all right.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you, commissioners, for your time today. My name is Joshua Berry. I'm a 22-year-old who just graduated from college this May. I'm a proud resident of New York's Hudson Valley, calling New Paltz and Ulster County home. I come to you today as a private citizen sharing my own thoughts. With my time, I hope to address a distinct concern of mine for this year's redistricting process, the excessive dilution of Ulster County's voting power in the state Senate Assembly via many districts that are neither compact nor contiguous. As you have likely heard, my home county, located in the heart of the Hudson Valley, currently has what I believe to be 4 Senate districts, 39, 42, 51, and 46, as well as 4 Assembly districts, including Assembly District 101, 102, 103, and 104. Notice how I said what I believe to be, though. That is because I'm not entirely sure whether I'm missing a district somewhere. Prior to this meeting, I went to the NewYork.gov website to try and make sure I'd included each district. But because there's such a confusing jumble of them, all in Ulster County, all representing different corners of my county, I can't even be 100% sure I didn't miss a district somewhere. To be honest, trying to figure out which districts include Ulster County gave me the same feeling I have when looking at an octopus at an aquarium. Ulster County's current districts are neither compact nor contiguous. This is a serious issue. I'm a resident of New Paltz, New York. I know I have representation via Assembly District 103 and Senate District 42. Yet, if I drive to Kingston, about 20 minutes north, or Accord, about 15 minutes west, I have no clue if they share common representation. In Ulster County, if I want to organize my fellow citizens around a common cause, such as perhaps advocating for broadband internet access in our rural communities, I would have to work around what I think are 4 Senate districts and 4 Assembly districts. This is an issue because I think Ulster County forms a pretty distinct community of interest. My dentist lives in Kingston. I go to church in Gardner. I attended school in New Paltz. I shop at the grocery store in Modena. When I played Little League and high school sports, we mainly competed against other Ulster County towns, from Saugerties to Ellenville. Ulster County towns even have similar economies. We are rural and farm-based, but increasingly have drawn tourists from downstate and the city who want to hike in our Catskill Mountains and play in our towns that dot the Hudson River. The people of Ulster County even have similar values when it comes to the pandemic we're in. Throughout the pandemic, I saw residents in my county pull together and for each other. Today, we have the highest vaccination rate compared to our neighboring counties, with over 76.5% of our over 18 population having received at least 1 dose. I know the task in front of you is difficult, and there is a high likelihood that the lines you draw will not be the lines we as New Yorkers see come 2022. However, I urge the Commission to use current technology, such as statistical tools that consider the efficiency gap, to draw your initial lines, and please consider giving Ulster County our fair representation in both the Assembly and Senate by lowering the number of districts currently representing Ulster County. Thank you very much for your time, and I really appreciate the hard work that you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua, and congratulations on graduating from college.
Thank you.
Merton Simpson, how are you? Thank you for joining the commission.
I'm well.
Right, Merton, you're coming in and out. Well,
Merton, maybe if you turn your video off, your connection might be more stable.
All right, well, Merton, while Merton, we have you back, but maybe try turning off your video because we can't, you're not coming through. Okay, yeah, try turning off your video. Okay.
Can you hear me now better?
Yes, we can hear you now. Yes.
All right. Okay, I don't understand what it is. If I'm on now?
Yes, please speak. Yeah, it's just, I think the Wi-Fi connection is bad.
All right. Okay.
Right, Merton?
I am the Albany legislative district in Hollow. You can hear me, yes?
No, okay, so I'm sorry, Merton. Can you repeat what you just said? Because we lost you and then you came back.
Okay, I am Merton Simpson. I'm the Albany County legislator for District 2, which includes the Arbor Hill, Sheridan Hollow, also have a commission which is going to deal with reapportionment and redistricting for Albany County. But I would be remiss if I didn't say that if we had a perfect redistricting effort in New York State, it would be meaningless unless I feel that while it's important for us to do due diligence in terms of optimizing whatever we do in New York State, if we had a perfect redistricting in New York State, but we lose control of the Congress next year, it's going to be basically Pyrrhic. It'll be futile. And so while we redouble our efforts to do everything we can, Albany County has failed in 3 consecutive redistricting efforts for violations of the Voting Rights Act. And so we're very concerned at the local level that we don't replicate that again, which is why we created a separate commission for the local level. But again, the trickle-down theory, I was concerned that the census was not augmented with the initiation of the administration of Joe Biden. The normal undercount of the census has been exacerbated by both the pandemic and the Trump administration. And so the region that I represent, county, will have a relatively robust redistricting effort. Albany County has been a Democrat.
Legislator, you're coming in and out again. Legislator, yeah, I mean, I heard you up until Biden and the census. Legislator, can you hear us?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Legislator, can you hear us?
Maybe he'll call back in.
Yeah, Miranda, can you try to arrange for him to call, Miranda?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Yes. Muhammad, thank you for joining us. I'm sorry for the delay. Okay.
No problem. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity for this testimony. So my name is Muhammad Sadiq. I am a resident of Little Pakistan in Central Brooklyn. I lecture at Brooklyn College, City University of New York. I am an imam at Matni Masjid, a religious teacher, a social work volunteer. As a resident of Brooklyn for years, I want to testify on gerrymandering of Muslim communities in the Central Brooklyn in 2012. Senate District 17 and the consequences of that decision. Kensington and Little Pakistan, manipulated by the Republican leadership to ensure the Orthodox Jewish community, previously split into 6 districts, had one collective voice. For years, we lacked any voice in any state senate. We faced illegal surveillance in our mosques, informants in our colleges, and deportation of our families and relatives. Our existence was political, but politicians excluded every avenue for us to participate in politics. South Asian Muslim communities of this neighborhood deserve representation as well. This is why we asked the commission to fix this, including in the new election map. First, the commission should solidify and unify the Muslim communities in the neighborhood of Kensington and Little Pakistan, which are naturally occurring communities of the same culture and interests. We cannot continue to be unfair with tax-paying Muslim communities in 2021. We have witnessed the frustration of voters because of no care and help from the representatives. Also, the lack of access to the resources. We reject the last Senate map, which harmed the weak and proper political engagement and led to unproductive representation from our senator. So we present the District 44 as an example for redistricting. This commission can correct this historic mistake, and we urge the commission to finally end the exclusionary gerrymandering of Muslim in Central Brooklyn by consolidating the Muslim communities, giving them their fair right of representation. And I won't take more time from you guys because there are so many fellows are there on the queue. That's all from my side.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. Appreciate you joining us. Legislator Simpson, I'm sorry about that. You're much clearer now. So I think this should work, hopefully.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Yes.
Okay.
This looks good. Okay, let's try this, and if it doesn't work, we'll have you call.
All right. Okay. Well, for what it's worth, and I'm an Albany County legislator. I represent the 2nd legislative district in Albany, which on a statewide level won't mean much to people. We have our own redistricting committee at the commission at the county level, which we're seeking to staff right now. But as I attempted to say previously, if we, I'm pretty confident that certainly in the 108th Assembly District, which is represented by have of people of color within a 6-hour radius, and Albany County is a relatively vast area, as is the 108th Assembly District, which is of course much larger. But as this area has been a long-term Democratic machine, there's little doubt that slight probability of having a less than competent administration, we're going to do pretty well in terms of redistricting. And so while we have to always strive to be optimum at the local level, my concern is now if we had a perfect redistricting effort in New York State, it's going to be meaningless if we lose control of Congress. And so my plea right now, I'm getting ready to craft a resolution for the Albany County legislatures to appeal to our congressional representatives that Washington needs to get on the case with, dealing with these proliferation of fraudulent audits, which the Supreme Court really affirmed with Arizona, and not eliminating the ability for local Republican legislatures to basically overturn the legitimate election. I mean, the whole concept which has to be, illegal in any state and certainly unconstitutional. What should happen is, at a time now when the Texas Republicans are actually sending out sergeants of arms to arrest their representatives, we should be using our congressional sergeant of arms to be arresting these criminals who are stealing our democracy. I mean, this kind of Marquis of Queensberry rules that we're dealing with. I remember when Speaker Pelosi said we shouldn't engage in an impeachment of Donald Trump because it'd be divided. I was born in South Carolina. We've been divided since the Civil War. So my plea is, yes, be local, but if we don't get the National Congress back, it's all moot. I reserve the balance of my time.
Thank you for joining us, legislator. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
I'm happy we made this work. Chad, how are you? Thank you for joining the commission.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I just came from Governor's Island and I'm at the pizza shop, so I had to find a quiet spot. So
Take your time.
I'm a 40-year resident of the 33rd Congressional District, which is under Espaillat. Father, married, local activist, also a second vice president of Bronx Community Board 7. So one of my issues, and I'm seeking for the commission to look through thoroughly, is that my congressional district shares a portion with other Manhattan neighborhoods, which are completely different from ours. I'm talking about Harlem, I'm talking about Washington Heights, I'm talking about Inwood. And then we have a little piece called Fordham/University Heights. In my opinion, we are subject to what's left over after the other centers of power get the resources that we need. So my issue is a small piece, and I'm being, I don't know if sarcastic is the right word, a small piece of the Bronx, a small piece of another district. I don't see how it's equitable for our constituencies to get equal and equitable resources in our neighborhood when the Bronx is the last borough to get resources, the poorest county in the United States, with raising percentage rates of COVID over the last year. And we're about to lose a seat due to the census readings where we fell short 85 seats. So being that we are sharing a district with Manhattan, I don't think it's equitable where we in the Bronx have our own neighborhoods. We share cultures across the river. Yes, we do. But our transportation hubs do not always connect. So you have several different neighborhoods under one congressional seat. And I just think it needs to be looked on in a more equitable manner where other congressional seats in the Bronx may have the majority, where that congressional representative can concentrate all their resources in that borough. So I just want that to be heard. And I'm hoping that others who live in Fordham, University Heights, or in the Bronx come to these meetings to state their opinions and their requests, whether or not they have all the information or not. Because if we say nothing, nothing gets done. I have 15 seconds left. I will save it for the next speaker. Thank you for your time.
Well, Chad, I actually believe you are our final speaker. So if you want, you have 8 to 10 seconds. But
well, no,
yeah.
I'll save it for the next session if there is one.
Okay. Well, I cannot think of anything more New York than having the last speaker be joining us from a pizza shop. But thank you so much for joining the commission. So commissioners, as we have done, so Chad was the last person in the queue. If there's no objections, as we've done in the past, I would ask for 5 minutes before we close. So that means that at 6 p.m. exactly, we will reconvene. But yeah, okay. We'll pause for 5 minutes. Miranda, do we have any additional people?
No, that's all for today.
All right. Well, we are now at the end. My fellow commissioners, I just want to thank everyone so much for for all of their efforts, both our fellow commissioners, the staff, and the public. I think this is truly unprecedented. And I think we kind of forget how this is the first time that everyday New Yorkers can really have an impact on their lives. I want to thank my fellow commissioners for sitting through 10 hearings, 3 weeks of hearings. I think that I've had a lot of fun getting to know all of my fellow commissioners better, as well as joining everyone here. But I also would like to say I was never more proud of us as a group than when back in January, we decided to embark on this round of hearings that was not statutorily required, but which we felt was important for drawing the lines. And that we decided to effectively double our workload by having another set of hearings to ensure that the people of New York were heard. I also want to thank the staff. You took what was a, admittedly abstract idea on our part and turned it into an incredibly effective round of hearings. I think that there is no question that this would not have worked without your sending emails at all hours, talking to people, at all times of day to ensure that everyone had their voices heard. So I want to thank you all so much for everything you did. But most importantly, I want to thank all New Yorkers who made their voices heard. New York has spoken decisively that they want their voices heard. And that was true in the census when over 20 million New Yorkers came out and made their voices heard. And that has been true here. We don't have an exact count of how many people have spoken before the commission, but definitely in the hundreds. And I want to thank everyone who came and testified before us. And I want to thank everyone who has submitted any kind of testimony or any kind of written comment to the commission. I think I speak for all my fellow commissioners when I say that we will take that and use it as much as possible in drawing the maps. So Vice Chair Martins, would you like to speak?
Just that it's been a wonderful listening tour. Looking forward to working on these maps, and then looking forward to a more interactive exchange with these participants when we hold these hearings going across New York State. So to my fellow commissioners and to staff and to everyone who participated, thank you.
Commissioners Plateau, Brady, Cuevas Molina, would you like to speak? Nope. Commissioner Brady, Plateau? No. All right, well, as Jack said, and as we've discussed, we will be pausing to begin drawing the maps. We will probably, we will be updating the public accordingly. Thank you, New York. Thank you to our staff. And I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you so much. Have a good day.